Hello to all of you. So after I filed everyone's taxes earlier this year on April 15th, as well as this last deadline that we just passed on October 15th, there were a lot of hot topics that came up, right? So I said, let me do a video because I think it would be very helpful for me to get on here and talk about these things. I speculate that a lot of you may be also dealing with similar issues that came up on a lot of these clients I was working on, okay? So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Tasha. I'm a tax strategist and business consultant and educator to middle and high income entrepreneurs around the United States, okay? I offer various tax and business services, and there are some specific industries that I'm highly experienced in, so be sure to check my description box for more information, okay? Other industries are definitely welcome. All right, so the first topic that I want to talk about, and also all of my social media handles are in the description box. On YouTube and Instagram, I'm known as Entrepreneur Help Desk, okay? So, all right, the first issue that I want to address is, and I just always have my notes, guys. So the W-4 that we fill out for payroll versus how you file on your taxes, okay? I think somewhere along the lines, some people are getting things like this confused. Let me give an example. If on your W-4 you have single, and you have married, right? But then maybe you and your spouse separated throughout the year, whatever, you're not going to be filing together, and then you go file as single, because IRS does allow that. You can be, I don't want to get too far into that, but if you're separated for a certain amount of time, whatever, you can file as single. You don't have to file married, file as separate, but I don't want to get into that specific. I just want to talk about the difference in if you claimed married throughout the year and they were taking out a certain amount of taxes, and then when it's time to file, you file something different, it's going to affect the results. Okay, that's just how it goes across the board. They were taking out for one thing, and then it was something all the way different. So you got to be mindful that, however, and also your number of exemptions. Well, they don't allow exemptions anymore, but there's other lines that you could fill in to have more taxes taken out or whatever. So I'm just trying to point out that whatever's going on your payroll W-4, it has to be going on when it's time to file. Okay, so that came up, and I had to do a lot of explaining to people and saying, well, let me see let me see what you have in your W-4. Let's do you a new W-4 or whatever, because this is what was going on. Shouldn't have been the case. And then they were all confused. Oh, I didn't know. Okay, now the next topic that was a hot topic is when you owe a balance, all right, and the deadline, well, you can't really pay the balance or whatever the case may be, if you're going to pay the balance by the deadline, okay? Let's first talk about if you owe a balance and you're not able to pay it when you file. Here's the thing. Your balance, anything you owe when it's time, when your taxes are prepared, anything you owe technically was due April 15th. Okay, that's just how it works. If, I know we don't know how much we may owe. Some of us don't really know, right? Some of you didn't know, so you didn't send anything. Well, maybe you went on extension. But here's the thing. When you filed the extension, it was not giving you additional time to pay whatever you may have owed that should have been paid in April. It was giving you additional time to file. So that's why some people, when they file the extension, they actually send some money with it to kind of help cushion what they might owe if they're going to owe. So that's definitely a good technique to use, because you just never know. So at least, what if you had happened to send enough that it covered what you owed? Then you won't have to deal with a penalty. So here's where it gets, tricky. Here's where some people didn't really understand. Whatever you had owed when you went on extension and now you're filing in October for the October 15th deadline, that was due in April. Since it didn't get paid, even though you went on extension, they're still going to issue you a penalty, a late penalty, because it's late. It should have been paid in April. And I know you didn't know what you were going to owe until you had your return done in October, but they don't care about that. whatever you had owed was due in April, and if it wasn't paid in April, they're going to give you a late fee, even though you went on extension to file. Okay, so a lot of people get that very confused. Okay, so what the extension protects you from is not receiving a penalty for filing late. Okay, so that's the penalty you're avoiding when you file an extension. Okay, so like I said, when you go on extension, maybe you want to send a little payment. Okay, now the third thing I want to talk about is life events that happen throughout the year and how some people don't realize that this can have an effect on your taxes. Okay, let's talk about filing status. We have a lot of our children who are adulting up, right? And some of us are losing opportunities to be able to claim them. So let's say you have one child and you've been claiming them. But now, so throughout this whole year or whatever last year, this is not really year specific for this year or last year, just speaking across the board. So let's say for that year, you had been picking them up on payroll, right? Whatever. So now when it's time to file, you realize, they had worked, they had earned more than I thought they did. So now I don't qualify to claim them. You can't claim head of household anymore. Your filing status, it instantly changes to single. That's just how it goes. Again, a life event happened throughout the year that lost you the opportunity to still be able to claim them, right? Let me think of something else. A lots of life events happens. When you get married, as we spoke about, you got to decide, are we filing joint? Are we going to be filing separate? Which I personally, professionally feel is like one of the worst filing statuses that you could file. Married filing separate. There's just too many layers to that, and I'm not going to get into that. But the bottom line is you have to pay attention to your life events. Did you have a baby? So now if you used to file single, your new filing status is head of household, okay? So let's see what else. Maybe you started a business and there's going to be additional forms required. So you just really have to pay attention to your life events. Really reflect what took place throughout the year, or think ahead, actually doing forward thinking, like what took place last year versus this year, what's going to be taking place next year, how are things going to change, so you can be prepared and you won't have to really deal with surprises, okay? So, and also as well as credits and things like that. For example, the dependent that we mentioned, maybe you were used to getting certain credits, especially child tax credits, various child tax credits. Now your child reached a certain age, it eliminated you to no longer be able to receive that credit. And speaking of that, you want to click back on some of I just recently did a video, scroll through my video feed, and you'll see I did a video talking about expiring credits, especially when it comes to our children who are adulting up. Certain things happen. Once they hit certain ages, we lose certain credits. For example, childcare. Once your child hits 13, you lose it. So it's really only good for like the first 12 years, okay? So that's important. Another life event that changes your whole dynamic. Okay, now, one of the things I want to talk about is getting things together sooner versus later, because rushing can lead to mistakes and missed opportunities, okay? People scramble around when it's time to file and they're like trying to get everything together. Like, I get it. I know life gets in the way. Life is busy. I'm definitely a very busy person, but it's good to stay as organized as possible, because you don't want to be rushing around and maybe not even knowing that you could have had some opportunity. You might have missed it. Okay, so definitely try to keep as organized as you can. Have somewhere, most of us are using digital storage now anyway, scan things in, save them online or whatever. So it's just really trying to get yourself together sooner versus later, okay? Because you're really rushing around. Okay, the other thing I want to talk about is doing mid-year checkups for like your withholding or your estimated taxes that you're paying out, or maybe you haven't been paying out and you should. I service a lot of entrepreneurs in various industries, some specific industries, but what I'm saying is that it's very good to do a mid-year checkup, because let's say, for instance, like on your W-4, your pay stub or whatever, check that out. See what's going on. Is there enough taxes coming out? You know, all kinds of things. There's so many calculators online now. I believe if you go to my site, 𝐅𝐑𝐶onnections.com, which is in the description box, I have all sorts of calculators that you can use, and one of them will take you to this particular thing to see, okay, am I having enough? We all have a tax liability based on the amount of income we earn for the year. That's just the bottom line. Whatever that liability is going to be, however it's being paid, because some people, enough taxes aren't coming out. So some people maybe even need to send more money, okay, voluntarily, to avoid any issues. So, but the bottom line is doing a mid-year checkup, because the last thing you want to find out by the time the year ends, by the time it's time to file, is that not enough taxes came out, okay? So another topic that came up, tax compliance may be due in more than one state, okay? So I had several people who they were working out of state and then they got laid off or whatever. So they received unemployment in a state, but they didn't live in that state. You are obligated to file in both states. One state you're filing as resident, the other state you're filing as non-resident. Okay, another issue I remember I cleared up a matter for a client of mine a while back, is that they had a home, an investment property where they had renters in another state that they didn't live in, and they didn't understand that they still needed to file tax. You're earning money in their state, even though you don't live there. You got property here you're collecting rent on. We want some taxes on that. Like, you know how it goes. All right. So that's just how it is. Like, if you're earning money in their state, you have a filing obligation with that state. Some people work in 2 jobs or whatever the case may be. Like I said, you live in one state, work in another state. That's just how it goes. So be mindful of your tax compliance that's due in more than one state. Okay. Not enough people are doing tax planning. Okay, a majority of people are looking for like the best results to magically happen when it's time to file the taxes, all right? But the real secret is in tax planning throughout the year by making use of various strategies, like when it comes to identifying your qualifying deductions, especially, again, based on your industry, deducting smart, using legal entity structures, and various other strategies, okay? This is what comes along with tax planning and forward thinking. It's not all about just paying the taxes, like being smart. Like, there's so many tax laws that can actually work for you, not against you. So this comes from working with an experienced tax strategist. Okay, so another thing I want to mention, and I'm almost finished, is avoiding IRS mail, not reading, not responding. First, guys, there's so many scams out there. Like, never fall for an email from the IRS, a text from the IRS, or whatever. They're going to communicate with you by letter, by writing, and they want you to communicate with them in writing. So unless you're having like a specific representative that you're dealing with, or a revenue agent, and you have the direct phone number and y'all are communicating. What I'm speaking about is when mail comes in, again, have yourself a folder or something, or scan it in right away. Store it digitally. Have a folder on your digital storage so that these things are misplaced. You want to be reading your letters. You want to be responding to your letters. You want to take some action. If you don't really understand what the letter is saying, get some assistance by a professional, okay? But don't just avoid it, because it's not going to go away. Okay, and the last thing I want to say is just basically, which I kind of said earlier, staying better organized. That is super important. That is super important, especially for you entrepreneurs. There's so many tax laws and taxes and that opportunities that are there for you, but you're not organized, so you don't know your bookkeeping is all over the place. You're missing deductions because you weren't keeping track of things. You're misreporting income because you weren't keeping track of things. So just stay better organized to the best of your ability, okay? So I felt these were important things to talk about in greater detail. If you want more personalized assistance or need answers to your specific questions, you can definitely book me me for a 1-hour business consultation. When you check my description box, you'll see various links to masterclasses that I have that teach you on a greater level about certain things, certain topics. Okay, and I do thank you all for watching. See you in the next video.